And it's a real pleasure to be here tonight to talk to you about Macquarie Law School, about the opportunities it provided for me, and something about what it has to offer you as potential students. Now, I, as Peter said, was part of the first group. I was very lucky to be here then because when the law school started teaching, Macquarie Law School was changing the way law was taught in Australia. It was fundamentally rewriting the book, and it was something that they did then, and it's something they're continuing to do now for reasons which I'll come to, which are very, very important. When I started, Macquarie set out on a course which intended to give to students that came through this law school some skills that are essential for practicing law, but for anything else that you do. Problem-solving skills, critical thinking, logical argument, and communication skills, verbal and written. Now, some of the other law schools at the time, in fact, every other law school at the time, taught black letter law and just black letter law. It didn't do these other things. Macquarie was different, and as I said, it changed the way it was done. And it's continuing to change the way it's done. The program that Natalie spoke about and Liesl spoke about, the PACE program, is something which was a first here and is now being, we're pleased to see, copied by some other universities. What it does is it takes students out of an academic setting and into the real world, just as Liesl said. And it's that sort of thing that we, and I'm an employer of some 1,700 people, it's that sort of thing that we look for when we're looking to choose between lots and lots of law graduates. It's things like practical experience, it's things like going overseas, it's things like being able to communicate clearly and concisely. The sorts of things that Macquarie Law School will give to you. The other change that's taking place here and generally in the legal profession is globalisation. You've probably heard a lot about that. The law is globalising. In the last 3 to 5 years, the legal landscape in Australia has changed fundamentally. We now have lots and lots of international law firms in Australia. We have Australian lawyers going and working all over the world, both as part of Australian law firms working in other countries, but also Australian lawyers going off and working both for law firms and corporations all around the world. And there are some very good reasons for that, which we explored at a conference just recently. Australian lawyers are very well trained. We are better trained in Australia. We train lawyers better in Australia. We educate lawyers better in Australia now than many other parts of the world, including the UK. Our academic courses are more rigorous. The course here at Macquarie is substantially more difficult, more rigorous, more challenging, and produces better lawyers, dare I say, than some of the great universities of Europe. Australian lawyers are known for working and playing hard. And yeah, we do work and play hard. And that is attractive to people all around the world. And we're adaptable. Australian lawyers, as those of you who have already been overseas, or Australians as those of you who have already been overseas will know, are adaptable people. Foreign law firms love us. And Macquarie University is leading the way. Macquarie University Law School is leading the way in preparing law students for this new world. The programs that Natalie spoke about in terms of the compulsory international law subjects, the range of international law electives are absolutely critical to preparing young lawyers for the future because, as I said, the nature of practice is changing. Now, you may be sitting here today thinking, gee, I can't see myself going overseas and working, I can't see myself leaving home, leaving Australia. Let me tell you, I am just astounded at the number of young lawyers that start working in law firms and within 2 or 3 years are looking for a posting in some other part of the world or who have gone off on their own to find jobs in other parts of the world. It is something which we're going to see more of, and it's something which I have no doubt many, many of you sitting here today in 2 or 3 years after you've graduated will be looking to do. And it's the skills and it's the background that you've received at Macquarie that are going to make that very possible. We've talked about interdisciplinarianism. I cannot pronounce the word. When I was here, it was, gee, you've got to do subjects from a whole lot of courses, in a whole lot of courses other than, or a whole lot of areas other than that which you're majoring in. So I majored in history for my arts degree, but I also did some IT and some chemistry and some politics. And again, one of the strengths of all Macquarie graduates, not just law, is this concept of getting a broad education, of being able to talk to people, to able to engage with people in a whole range of areas other than just your area of specialty. And that is so critically important in everything that you do, whether you're a lawyer, a journalist, working in government. to have an understanding of other areas in life, of other disciplines, is something which will really, really benefit you. And Macquarie is very special in that way. We're much more like some of the great US undergraduate universities who have followed the same course. It's something that works extraordinarily well over there. It's something which works extraordinarily well here. Now, I said I'd say something about my career because when I left law school, I thought I knew what I was going to do. I thought it was all pretty clear and pretty laid out. I started working as a litigator in a small firm of solicitors. I then went to the bar because I'd always thought I wanted to be a barrister. And I had a lot of fun, and it was interesting work. But one day I found myself back at a firm called Clayton, which is one of the large law firms in Australia. And I think the reason I probably went back there was because at the end of the day, I really like working with people rather than being a sole practitioner working on my own, which is what you do as a barrister. About the same time that I was invited to go back to Clayton and join the firm as a partner, there was a pretty fundamental change in the legal landscape then, and something called class actions were introduced. And you've probably heard about class actions in films, seen it in American books. Well, it's pretty well like that now. And this whole new area of the law opened up. Another Macquarie graduate who'd been in the first class with me, a guy called Colin Loveday, who had also gone to the bar, and we'd been practicing as barristers together, joined me at Clayton, and we set up a class action practice, which has opened up some just amazing opportunities for he, I, and everybody else that's worked in it. We've acted in, as Peter said, some of the really interesting class actions. Sometimes we act for what the press have described as socially undesirable clients, but that's the nature of being a lawyer. It's given us the opportunity, or it gave us and continues to give us the opportunity to travel all over the world, to work with some of the most exciting people, not just lawyers, but scientists, engineers, and business people all around the world in some of these amazing actions. And when we look back on it, both Colin and I know that it was the grounding that we got here at Macquarie which made that possible. Our careers have slightly diverged. He has continued to work in that field and has now been responsible for successfully defending a couple of the really amazing class actions in Australia, getting better results here in Australia than others have got in the United States. I've gone into a management role, and I'm now helping to run a very large business, a law firm which has, as I said, 1,700 people and offices all over Australia and internationally. I'm also the chair of the large law firm group, which is a group that's driving legal reform to create a national legal profession. And so I spend a lot of my time dealing with politicians, dealing with law society leaders and academics all around the country. And again, I know that it's the skills that I got here at Macquarie which have made that possible. It was the confidence which Macquarie gave me to take on challenges, the confidence which it gave every other graduate that came through the law school. It was also something else very special about Macquarie, a willingness to look outside the square, to look for opportunities beyond which you might just assume, to look beyond just being a lawyer, just going into court or just acting on real estate or commercial transactions. Because there's something else very special about Macquarie, something very special which Macquarie gives all of its graduates. It's given us for the last 40 years and it continues to do that. And that's a sense of the operation of the law in practice and a sense of the importance of lawyers and the important role that lawyers play in terms of social justice. One of the things that makes lawyers different is an ability to get involved in that. And it doesn't matter where you are, you'll see Macquarie graduates who are working in large firms, who are working in government. People working in large commercial firms like I do work in pro bono programs. We could be doing anything from helping a group of homeless people in relation to their housing problems to, in one case which a number of Macquarie people worked on, overturning a murder conviction in circumstances where the police had framed the person that had been convicted. Went all the way to the High Court and the conviction was overturned, notwithstanding the fact that the police had suppressed evidence. For some Macquarie graduates, they make that their career. They work for their entire life in organisations like Legal Aid, really making a difference for people. And it's that sense of an understanding of the law in operation. It's that sense of social justice which is so special at Macquarie, and I think a couple of people have already spoken about that, and I was incredibly pleased to hear that that was still being inculcated into the graduates in first year. I'll let you into a little secret. I did know that because I did leave 40 years ago, but my eldest son is now in his third year of law at Macquarie. He is enjoying it, he is loving it. And I can see in the courses that he is being taught by the staff that are here today, people that you've heard from today, that they're inculcating the current group of students with all of those skills and all of those values. Lots of Macquarie graduates have gone on to do the traditional thing, to be barristers, to be Queen's Counsel, lots of judges, lawyers in the corporate world, lawyers working in government. But perhaps more importantly, lots of them have gone on to do other things, to work outside the law, but to use the skills that they acquired here at Macquarie. Some are in teaching and research, and we were all very proud to see that the newly appointed Dean of the ANU Law School, which we will acknowledge is not a bad law school, down in Canberra, Stephen Bottomley, was a graduate of Macquarie. He was one of the first in my class, has just been appointed to head that law school. He's the second Dean that I can think of that has come out of Macquarie. We have people in politics. Mike Kelly, federal MP, illustrious career in the military, a Lieutenant Colonel, went into politics, a Macquarie graduate. People in business, people running businesses, people working in journalism, people working pretty well everywhere. And you won't be surprised to hear me tell you, people working for NGOs all around the world. There are a group of people who have devoted their lives to making a difference in some of the worst places you can imagine. A Macquarie graduate spent, I think it was 2.5 years working in Afghanistan, trying to help that country rebuild its system of government. He was a Macquarie graduate. And in each and every case, it was the skills that they acquired here, the skills that Macquarie Law School gave to them. And I mentioned again, creative problem solving, critical thinking and analysis, the ability to communicate, and leadership skills. Now, if you choose to come to Macquarie, you're going to get an outstanding education. Let me speak as an employer for a moment. People ask me what sort of subjects should you take. My answer is very simple: take things that you enjoy. This is the last opportunity before you start work for the rest of your life to have a good time. So take subjects that you enjoy. You don't need, unless you want to take an accounting degree. You can learn accounting once you start work. You don't need to do lots and lots of things here which you can do later. You've got to do the law degree, but in terms of your other degree, take things which you are going to enjoy, take things which you're interested in, because when you come to look for a job, we're going to assume that you've got the technical legal skills because you've got a law degree. You've got a law degree from a great university. And when we're looking to decide who do we hire, we're going to be looking for people who have worked outside the academic environment, as Lisa was talked about. We're going to be looking for people who are passionate about the other things that they did. History, philosophy, politics, doesn't matter what it is, as long as you're passionate, as long as you're interested. We're going to be looking for people who have, increasingly looking for people who have worked overseas, people who've demonstrated that they have the ability to leave Australia, to interact in other communities, to work in other cultures, because so many of our people will be going overseas. The other thing I'd say to you is, while you're here, get involved in the campus life. Okay? It is, as I said, the last opportunity you have to really enjoy yourself before you get into working mode. There are so many things here that you can do, and there is no doubt about it that if you do get involved in those things and you get them on your CV, again, when you come to look for a job, they're the sorts of things that employers will look at when they're working out whether to choose person A or person B. Whatever you do, you can be certain about one thing. If you come to Macquarie, if you do your law degree here, you'll receive an outstanding education. No ifs, no buts. You will receive an outstanding education. If you get involved, you're going to have a great time. You're going to make friends on campus and in the courses, which you will still have 40, 50 years later. The group of friends that I formed at Macquarie University are still my closest and my best friends. It is quite extraordinary how often we get together and we still talk about what happened 40 or 45 years ago. God knows how many years ago it is now. And it's interesting, my son who came here used to be very critical about that, or used to be bit critical about Dad and his mates talking about it. And then when I asked him, why did you choose to come to Macquarie? And he said, well, you know, I sat and I looked at the experience that you had. I sat and I looked at the experience that your friends had that I've grown up with. And I thought, well, if it was good enough for them and I see what they got out of it, it's going to be, I think, good enough for me. So that was an important factor. The one thing you can be absolutely certain about, is if you come to Macquarie, you take a degree at Macquarie, you take a law degree at Macquarie, you'll be setting yourself up for success. You'll be setting yourself up for success for the future. So wherever you go, I wish you every success. I would certainly encourage you to think very carefully and to think very favourably about Macquarie. But I do wish you every success, and thank you for listening tonight.